Hi, it's Lise from Soul Therapy Talks, and we're doing the second part of our boundaries. Why do we need them? Or why we need them? We're just going to continue on with the actual workbook that I was working on with my life coach, and we left off with verbal boundaries. So, just another word from our sponsor, which is Soul Therapy Wellness Spa, which is my business. Again, just a reminder that we have our website, soultherapywellness.com, and you can check out our blog on there, what's new at Soul Therapy Wellness / Soul News / blog that has the new stuff, or you can follow us just on social media, Soul Therapy Wellness on Instagram and Soul Therapy Wellness Spa on Facebook. All right. Thanks for following us, guys. And now it's back to our podcast. Okay, so let's finish off with we were talking about the time boundaries, and I don't think I have anything really to add about it. I think I said pretty much all of the things that I talked about before on my audio podcast. I'm trying to remember a lot of overlap right now. So that was really important for me to get across to people, that we have to make time and that we have enough time, instead of saying we don't have enough time and time goes by too fast. So verbal boundaries refer to how you talk and allow others to speak to you. Firm verbal boundaries will help you communicate your needs to others and set the tone for how you expect others to treat you. Using I statements will help you express your feelings. For example, I felt upset when you said that to me because. Violations of your verbal boundaries include people interrupting you, lying, being sarcastic, or saying put downs. Sounds like bullying, doesn't it? It's like, okay. Um, yeah, I guess all at once it is bullying, but we have relationships where people will say things that are sarcastic or kind of like a put down, right? So that happens. And so we need to know how to deal with that. First of all, we're going to go over unhealthy boundaries for verbal boundaries. So interrupting, lying, screaming, raising their voice, people not allowing you to talk and not allowing you to be heard. Healthy is talking in a respectful tone, allowing other people to talk and contribute to conversations, using I statements, and being honest with people. Wow, what a novelty. I thought that's the way we're all supposed to talk, because that's the way, I don't know. The fact that we have to say these things, though, I think is pretty it's relevant, especially in today's time, where we used to be expected to do those things, and now these are being violated consistently. And so we need to know how to deal with this, right? So let's go over, it is called DEARMAN. So that's like an acronym. And we have to, this is how to protect ourselves. Okay. So when you understand your boundaries, you can better protect yourself from those boundaries being crossed. However, sometimes your boundaries can unintentionally be crossed. If this happens, it is up to you to express your needs and boundaries to ensure it doesn't happen again. Dialectical Behaviour Therapy uses an interpersonal effectiveness skill called DEARMAN to help people resolve conflicts respectfully and effectively. All right, so D is describe, which is describe the situation simply, stick to the facts by avoiding opinion and interpretation. E is express. Express how you are feeling by using an I statement. Don't assume that the other person knows how you feel. I think that that's pretty relevant, that one, because a lot of us just assume people can tell by our face, by our body language, or even just how what we say that people can actually understand what we're feeling when they don't, especially if they are very poor at recognizing emotion in themselves. So it doesn't always, transfer to someone else just because you don't understand what you're feeling. How are you going to understand what other people are feeling? Assert is A. Okay, so say what you need. Don't beat around the bush. Be firm and clear. R is reinforce. Reward people who respond well and explain the positive effects of getting what you want or need. M is mindful. Maintain your position and keep your mind on your goals. Don't steer off the objective of the interaction. A is appear. Use a confident voice, body language, and make good eye contact. This will help you appear confident. That isn't always easy. Like, I would have to say for myself, I get full of anxiety when I have to stand up for myself. And that is kind of, you got to be able to calm yourself. And I think that's when you kind of do have to take a deep breath and sometimes even do a pause. You don't have to speak right away. You don't have to, because you end up being sometimes more reactive when you just want to, tell the other person what you're feeling, they made you feel, and sometimes it comes off more like you're on the defensive, and it loses the power of actually getting your point across. And I think it's important to take a pause and just remember, you don't have to say everything like right away. You can just take a deep breath and then focus on what you need to say, because you don't always know what to say right away. And I always thought you had to know that. I always thought you had to say right away whatever it was and not really think about what you want to say. So I'm just saying take a minute or a pause, a few seconds to actually identify what you need to say so that you do come off or you do sound more confident and you're sure of yourself, right? So N is negotiate. So that's the final one. It says, remember that you aren't demanding anything. You are asking for something. Be open to negotiation. So that's also kind of good to remember, is that you are negotiating sometimes. Sometimes it's a hard no. But most of the time when we're in relationships, it is negotiation, right? Okay, so there is boundary affirmations, but I'm not going to go over those. I'm going to go over the boundaries practice. And the reason I thought this was good because it actually gives examples. And I just wanted to go over the fact that when you read, like when I read these, you will intuitively know what to do. Most of the time, you'll know the answer, but you got to remember that this is someone else you're thinking of. But when it comes to yourself and you're exactly in the same situation, are you going to behave and do what the advice you are going to give the other person? That is what's most relevant. And I have done this myself, where I read things and I was like, yeah, I know what to do. This is what, they just have to do this and this and this, right? And then when I thought about it, I thought, oh, if I was in that situation, I would have a really hard time dealing with it, because my boundaries would be violated and I wouldn't know how to react. So let's go through them. You have a friend who shows up at your apartment without being invited. She always assumes that you have time and you want to spend an evening with her watching TV, and tonight you do not want her around. So I was thinking, well, that's pretty easy. You just, say, look, I'm weren't expecting you and I'm got this stuff to do and I'm going to bed early or I have to study and I have to cram for those exams, so I have no time. And whatever the reason is, or you just want to be alone. Um, would I be able to say that to that person? Um, yeah, it would be difficult, I think, because, you don't want to come off as, you know, rejection, right? Giving that person rejection that maybe they do need your company. But you know what? They really are violating your boundary. So how do you go about doing that? And so for me, I think I would seriously probably negotiate. I'd probably say this one show and you have to go because of X. So that's how I would deal with it. But some people are way more assertive. You kind of got to think about these things. Your friend goes right for your refrigerator whenever he comes to your place. He takes anything he wants and starts eating it, and you are on a tight budget and cannot afford to always feed your friends. You really wish he would ask for something before helping himself to your food. I thought about putting a lock on my fridge and somebody was doing that. I don't know. I think, yeah, I've never had friends who did such a thing, so it's hard time relating to that one. The next one, every time you attend a family event, someone brings up your political beliefs. You really want to maintain these relationships and feel it's unnecessary for them to stop bringing up politics when you're around to maintain the relationships. Well, yeah, that one is probably can be relatable, right? Some families are very political and they have certain views and they want everyone to have that same view. I heard this problem coming up with a lot of families regarding COVID, and this was a thing that became, instead of a medical thing, it was a political thing after a while. And it did divide families. And unfortunately, people have had a hard time, I think, coming back because they remember the bad behavior that sometimes happened. And I want you to think about if we had those boundaries in place that were healthy on both sides, would we be there in the same spot today? I actually think we'd be in a way better place if we had our boundaries actually intact. And I think there would be respect on both sides. But that's just my theory. I'm just thinking that we have no evidence because society hasn't practiced this enough to actually prove this anymore, I would say. Because there were things in the history, in the past, that could have caused major division and it didn't. So I'm not saying that boundaries are the answer for everything, but I think they would help a lot more if they were in place. The next one, your landlord frequently shows up at your apartment without notice with a task she feels needs to be done immediately. You know that she needs to give 24 hours notice, and you know that your rights deserve to be respected. I would think with this one, I wouldn't have so much of a problem because they're not family or a friend. Yes, they're the landlord. You want to get along with them, but you do have the right to, voice that they do need to give you notice that you cannot allow them in at that time and arrange for another time that works for them. I'm not sure. Okay, one of your friends keeps using the word schizo to talk about odd behaviors of his cat. You are offended by this word and you want him to stop using it. I think in my audio I thought he said that person's like the guy was describing his own cat, so I was like assuming that though. I thought that was very offensive. But anyways, this is his own cat, but it's the word schizo that the person is offended by. So yeah, that I get that it's offensive. It's like using the other words that are out there in our society that are very negative, and I, yeah, definitely say, you know what, that word really, I don't like it. So could you stop using it around me because I don't like that word? And if they need to say why, you know, I would say if you need to know why, I'll tell you. But I'm just asking you if you wouldn't say that. Uh, okay, oh, this is another good one. Okay, you are at the doctor's office. He or she informs you that they would like to try a new medication for your mental health issue. You do not think you need a different medication. So this is where I go off on my spiel saying this is your body and you get to choose what you want to do with it. Um, so yes, they're the doctor, but they actually have to prove why that medication would be good and also what are all the actual side effects of that medication before you'd even consider taking it. And if your current medication that you're on is still working and you think it's fine, then you have that right to voice that as well. So I think that's pretty straightforward. But some people do have a hard time saying to their doctor because they feel inferior to the doctor. And that's not the relationship that you should have with your doctor. Your doctor is supposed to be there to help you and to maintain your health or to get healthy, and not, um, you know, take away your power from controlling what you want to do with your body. So that's just my opinion. Um, you are out to lunch with a friend. Oh, this is a bad one. At the end, your friend says, "Oh, sorry, I'm broke. You can pay for my lunch, right?" You do not want to pay for their lunch, and you're angry that he or she assumed you would. Ah, I'd probably drop that person as my friend. I would be like, wow, that's pretty nervy. But I would literally say, how much do you have on you right now? I want to see because you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, but I would definitely consider not having that person as a friend. You are on the bus and the stranger next to you is asking you some very personal questions you do not want to answer. I I have had this happen to me and I ignore people. I actually pretend I do not hear them. That's a terrible way of doing it, I know, but I I won't answer. But yes, if I sometimes I think if I act assertive with those people, you just don't know what they're going to do, especially in public. So, yeah, I have had that in Edmonton. Okay. You are feeling very depressed and overwhelmed lately, and your friend is also. Your friend keeps talking about how much worse his or her depression is than yours and does not give you a chance to share your concerns. You feel hurt by this. Um, First of all, depending on the actual, um, I'd say the actual scenario, I would uh reconsider not spending as much time with this person only because of this. I know with depression, sometimes misery loves company, but you have to try to be with people that are happy and that are there to take care of you. And or you can be, doing self-care so that you're taking care of yourself. To be in a competition about who's the most depressed is not really productive and it's a negative thing. And of course, you're going to feel hurt that the other person thinks that they have it so much worse. Um, but that's not a contest you want to be in and win, that's for sure. So yeah, I would reevaluate that relationship. So the next part is they call the setting boundaries cheat sheet, which is, I think, really great because it kind of lets you, it's like a great guide to quickly know how to address things. So first of all, you need to get clear on your values and needs. So this is a bit of a workshop just on its own. To actually know your values is actually a thing that you need to go through and reassess them. And you need to do it on a regular basis because sometimes our values actually change, or they get more, or some get more concrete and some aren't as important anymore. So, and they change as we grow older, of course. So sometimes we adopt the values of others because we think it's what they want. You need to get clear on your values and the values of others. So the next one is communicate needs early on in relationships. This is a great one. Communicating needs early on prevents later confusion or people pleasing. I wish I kind of knew this one because I was never really good at that. I was never a demanding person, that's for sure. I was more of an observer, right? Like I'm a real observer. I don't jump in and participate right away. So I was, yeah, that was basically because I was a shy person. And I would take cues from other people, but definitely when you know yourself, you can communicate your needs early on in the relationship. Assess relationships. Recognizing boundary violations on or can lead to the recognition of relational problems. Know the signs of abuse and assess the health of your interpersonal relationships. So this is very good because sometimes we feel very uncomfortable with other people that we think they're our friends, and then you realize that they really aren't your friend. It's hard to face that. But it is also very healthy because then you start to realize you don't need to hang around with that person anymore because they're not doing anything for you. If it's a marital relationship or a boyfriend-girlfriend, it is the same thing, unfortunately. And every time that someone's violating your boundary and you tell them and they don't do anything different, that is a big red flag that you should not be in that relationship because they are not listening to you. So again, this is a really good one. Tap into your support system. Integrate safe people into your healing plan and try and have them and keep you accountable to yourself. That's an awesome one because asking people that you trust and they really are truly your friend to actually, if you have problems with boundaries, to help them make you accountable. And it does solidify as you go along in life. It makes them more permanent and you will become more confident and you won't then need their support so much. Things will just get better, I think, with time. Practice asking for help. That's what I need to do. I am not good at asking for help. Terrible. I'm an only child. So yeah, I was like, you figure it out. My parents were like, you figured out. Yeah, they would help me, but I mean most of the time it was like I had to be doing things on my own. Had to figure things out by myself, and I had just stuck. That's probably why I'm self-employed. Setting healthy boundaries is often dependent on two or more people. Don't feel like this is a journey you must do alone. Ask for help. Work on emotional regulation. Boundaries set with a regulated brain are more likely to last the test of time. This is I think this is really important because people don't understand emotional regulation. That's a that's a fancy word, really, for being in tune and self-aware. How many of us are really in tune and self-aware? We might think we are, but when it comes down to it, we can be in situations where we really don't know what we're feeling, and it's hard to navigate when you don't know. So I know there are apps for that. There's actually things like that, programs that will help teach you emotional regulation and identifying your emotions in the moment. I think those are really good to touch on, and this will help with emotional regulation. Be patient. Sometimes receiving a boundary from someone can make us feel guilty, defensive, or hurt. Be patient with loved ones who are trying. So this one is um, really also important, I think, because we have to realize we're all human beings, and we do have to be patient, especially with the people that we love or like. And it's not always easy to give them space, even if we communicate that we are hurt. We do have the right to communicate that we have been hurt, but you have to step back then after that and see if they're going to change their behavior, apologize. Maybe sometimes they don't realize that they're doing that to you. And hopefully you come out in the other end and things will be better, right? Because you're asserting your boundaries. So they have to step back. And when it comes to getting a boundary put in place to you, you have to realize it kind of is like a two-way street. So it may be hurtful, but you have to accept what they are saying or feeling, because you never meant to do that. And that's where time makes a big difference. And just be patient with yourself as well. And you will get over it. You will heal. You just need to give yourself that time. Practice self-care. This is my favorite one because I think people just don't do this enough. When we care for ourselves, we are able to recognize how others care for us as well. Setting boundaries to care for ourselves is also important. Yeah, like I said before, number one thing people do not do is enough self-care. And also just kind of putting people in check about caring for themselves. That's also important, like to remind other people, hey, you look pretty tired. Maybe you should, get to bed early. Or, whatever it is, just say to them, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You don't have to do what you think you need to do. You can actually take care of yourself first. So I think that's what people need to be reminded of. Assertiveness skills. Yes, that's really important, I think. So developing the skill of being assertive is an effective way to feel more comfortable asserting our boundaries to others. That's a kind of a no-brainer, but it's really important. So practice as much as you can with the people you trust. I think that actually helps when it comes to asserting yourself with others that you have a hard time, if they're always violating a certain boundary and you're trying to get them to change. And they could be part of your family and you need to keep repeating the same thing because they're never going to be out of your life completely. So you need to deal with them. So I think this is really good. Identify your values. Again, that's kind of like clear on your values and needs. Our boundaries are heavily influenced by our personal values. Knowing your values and meaning can help to identify and assert your boundaries. So yeah, of course, knowing your values and they mean to help to identify. So Yeah, the better you know yourself, the easier all of this is going to be on you. So the last is setting boundaries, backups. It's actually not the last. I have to go over the laws yet. And this is a little while already. Okay, 30 minutes we're at. Promises and commitments to ourselves. When I feel tired, I will stop and identify the problem and or get the rest I need. Call support is like with confidants, someone who will let you vent and keep it confidential. That's really good to have someone like that. The other thing you can do is journaling, because if there's some things that you need to say and you want to say them, but you can't say them to anybody, I think journaling is an absolute great way to do it. Power sources, so taking the time to recharge your own sources of power so that you can stay committed to your self-care and peace. So physical, we need to sleep, exercise, do proper nutrition. Spiritual, meditation, nature, affirmations, prayer. Emotional, we can vent, seek support, seek safety. Mental is distracting from the negative and journaling to give your mind a break. So the very last is the law of boundaries, or the laws of boundaries. So the first law is the law of cause and effect. Establishing boundaries helps an individual learn the law of cause and effect, and how to protect themselves in the future. We must all learn to reap what we have sown on our own and understand that our behavior directly impacts outcomes in our relationships. Yeah, you could make this whole page an actual study. It's in itself, like it's so intense. Law 2 is the law of responsibility. Setting boundaries and being responsible for one's life is important. It is not selfish to want to set boundaries. However, it is important to continue to love others while taking care of ourselves. We cannot feel another's feelings for them, grow for them, or learn from them. Law number 3 is the law of power. You have the power to ask for help. You can call anyone that you trust to help you when you need it. You have the power to make the choices that are most positive for you and your life. You have the power to set and enforce new and improved boundaries. Law number 4, the law of respect. When setting and enforcing boundaries, we fear others will not respect them. If we love and respect others who tell us no, they will then love and respect our no. Our concern should not be what others would do or what others want them to do. They are free to make their own choices. Law number 5, the law of motivation. If what you're doing is taking away more than what you are getting back, you are doomed to failure. Some people are motivated to do things for less healthy reasons: fear, revenge, approval, or guilt. We must assess and ensure that our motivations for boundaries are also healthy. That one's a really important one. The law of evaluation is number 6. It is important to evaluate the effects of setting boundaries and be responsible to the other person. But that does not mean you should avoid setting a boundary that might hurt someone. We need to evaluate hurt and see when it may be necessary for the relationship. I think a lot of people are afraid of hurting someone they like or love, but they need to be told that they are violating a boundary of yours. And what that will do is make them grow as a person. It's really irrelevant. You're a part of that other person's growth as well. And unless you check them on your boundary, They will never know. They will keep repeating the same mistake over and over. And who are you? But you need to be their teacher. You need to tell them your boundary, and you'll see them become a better person for it. The law of activity. So, an important part of boundary setting is being active and doing the work. It may be hard at times, but without resistance, we cannot gain strength. Think of a bird hatching from an egg. If we break the egg for the bird, it will die. The bird needs to peck its way out of the egg into the world. And I think it's butterflies is the other one, right? So, yeah, absolutely. We need to do these things ourselves. We can't have other people do them for us. And it is also a big part of our own personal growth. If we keep practicing this every day, we need to practice more and more every day. Then it becomes much easier as we get older. It gets easier and easier. And that is comforting because some things are not easy when you first start practicing this. The last is number 9, the law of exposure. A boundary, our personal boundary, like a property, is like a property line. It defines where you begin and end. Your boundaries define your relation to others. In order for others to honor your boundaries, they need to be visible and communicated. The path to real love is to communicate your boundaries openly. That's a real powerful one, isn't it? Because when we are clear in our boundaries, it does make life so much easier. And I did forget one part that I wanted to go over is body symptoms. So I'm pretty good at recognizing when I feel uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I do get a lot of these symptoms, especially it is a gut intuition, a gut feeling. And sometimes I do start sweating, and I can get a tightness in my chest, which is the solar plexus that starts to tighten. So those are my main signals. But there are red cheeks, headache, heart beats fast, tense, butterflies in tummy, clenched fists, chest pain, weak or jelly legs, nausea, trembling, sweating, jittery teeth. So when we have these physical symptoms, when you have these and you think that there's no reason for them, you're kind of dead wrong. There's a reason for them, that your boundary is actually being violated. You just don't know why. If you're in that position where you don't know, it's because you don't know which boundary has been violated. You don't know how to deal with that boundary being violated. And this is what this whole thing was all about, because we are stressed out. We're stressed out all the time. People just don't realize it. And it is because the boundaries are being violated. And it's kind of like nonstop all the time. And I think that this is what can really, it leads to problems, because stress exasperates disease, and it also can cause problems in our body, which is unhealthy. And unless you learn to actually solidify your boundaries and make them healthy, you're going to continue feeling this stress state constantly. It is constantly being violated the more you feel that way. So I want to encourage you to listen to this podcast a few times or make notes to get it solidified in your head that this is what you need to do, because if you don't, you will constantly be irritated all the time. It's just a non-ending. And it's, I think, also why I became self-employed. As I was self-employed, instead of working for other people, I felt more control over the environment that I created. And I enjoyed talking one-on-one with my clients, because I was able to help them or listen to them. And sometimes they would listen to me too. Like if I had something that I thought I could share with them or relate to them, that was an experience they had, and I could help them. Sometimes it made me realize that, oh, I actually did that right, and this is going to help this other person. Or I would say, oh, I didn't handle this one situation really badly. And then it would make me realize what I could have done different if I had done something or was in the same situation again. So it was a real learning curve for me to start working with people and actually learn how to react with people, because sometimes they say things to you that's very, oh gosh, I could go on and on about stories that I have personally in my work. But the whole point is that I did learn my working boundaries pretty well. I think overall, I felt very confident in my working boundaries, no problem. I was very confident. I'm very confident in my work. It's the personal stuff that I had problems with. So this is where I value all of this information that I've shared with you today. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And I am wearing headphones so that I can hear how I sound. I know my last podcast was a little bit chalky, and I'm trying to improve it. So we will see if we keep the headphones or not. If it improves the quality of the podcast, then I will do it. Thank you so much for listening. And this is Lise from Soul Therapy Talks signing out.